46-inch mud tires and 150 horsepower V-twin, this is the Monster Chopper, and this week we are doing a front swing arm and custom suspension.
Piece done. It looks much nicer and it is greatly weight reduced. That's all we need to hold the bearings together, so that looks cool. I've been working on the steering stem over here, and basically I'm going to use Toyota Tacoma axles just because it happens to be about the right size for the bearings in this. More importantly, it has this splined piece from the CV that I can weld to and use so that it's removable, because one end can be welded onto here and the other end needs to be removable. Will is going to be my powered turntable to weld this.
Oh, nice.
And now, to turn the lumpy welds into a nice, smooth surface for the bearing to sit. It's not the prettiest thing right there because the welds are never perfectly the same hardness throughout, but for a bearing surface, it'll do the trick. And then over here, I turned it down just like the most minimal amount possible. Fit on there, there we go, yeah. So that end's perfect. I've got it drilled out, and now a trick I learned a while ago. Most taps have a little, they have a little hole at the back of them, so you can do this. And you can use your live center to apply a little pressure and keep it straight, and then turn it with the lathe. Of course, my lathe doesn't have the juice, so I'm gonna have to do this. I'm gonna have to turn it by hand, but nevertheless, it helps get it started nice and straight and keep going straight. That's a quality steering stem right there. So it can go like this. And if I had two bearings, this is the point where I'd slide the other bearing on, and then that, and then this applies tension. And if you're wondering how that's going to apply tension, if necessary, I'll put a little spacer under this, or even just a little washer, so that, you know, it comes down and sits up against the bearing with just a little bit of space before it hits its stop, and that way this will push on it and squish the bearings. So now I can design the bit here that holds the handlebars. And I'm going to use these bar clamps here because they're nice and they say KTM on them. These holes are just for aesthetics and weight reduction. These holes are for the bar clamps to bolt to. You can see I have two pieces here, and this one is smaller. It's a 1/4 inch all the way around. So I'm gonna do kind of a laminated steel design like I did on the hubs. That way I can take the top layer after I weld it all together, I can put it in the mill, and I can mill down everything except for these little rectangles here. I can mill those down by that amount so that this same interlock system can work. Also, I decided to use 3/16 because I figured if I'm laminating it anyway, that'll be more than strong enough. Well, that's the tiniest little triple clamp ever. Except it's not actually a triple clamp. It's a zero clamp. There's no clamping here. It is the thing that holds the handlebars on a motorcycle, so we'll call it a triple clamp. Last night I did the welding on this and then the milling on it, so that those little things have little notches to sit on, and then I put it on here, and I didn't like it. The main thing I didn't like is the nuts on the bottom sticking out. Just look like an afterthought. It just looks very unintentional and sloppy. So I didn't like that. And then also these holes that I did, they also look kind of accidental, you know? They just don't look right. I got out here to the shop a little bit early this morning and decided to just make a whole new one. So I redesigned it a little bit so that it looks better, made the holes a little smaller so they could be threaded instead of having a nut on the bottom. That's a nice fit right there. And now those are threaded, so just do that, and then trim off the excess bolt. Click. Very nice. Look at that. Yeah, I like that. Look at there, all nice and welded up. That looks very beefy. As I'm sure you've noticed in these last few chopper videos, my TIG welds have been getting better and prettier, and you know, a lot of that's due to practice, but also I've really been enjoying the new Everlast Typhoon 230 that we have here with this swivelly end on the torch is extremely helpful for getting into tight spaces. The finger trigger is the biggest thing. It saves a ton of time not dragging around a foot pedal and all of that. I'd say that looks pretty good. So I'm making my sleeve spacers for the suspension pivots on the front. I'm using the grinder. They're super hardened, so doing it on the lathe just takes forever. So they need to be just a smidgen shorter, but watch this. So, you know, nothing fancy here.
Whoa.
It's like a little pile of smoldering metal dust. Look at that. The outside of it is cool enough to pick up, but the inside's still glowing.
That's kind of crazy.
Isn't it? So, I'm over here boring out these wrist pins, and they are extremely hardened. I have carbide cutter tips for the lathe here, and it still takes just so many passes to bore it out. Like, we're not talking about a big difference here. That's before and that's after. And it just takes an obscene amount of time. The bolt fits in there now. And that one's ready to go. For the first time ever, I bought myself a chunk of brand new Delrin stock here to make all my bushings out of. So I already made the first one here, and now I'm gonna chop. I need 4 of these, so I'm gonna chop off the chunks of this here and then go make them on the lathe. Cuts really nice with the saw, and on the lathe, it's just chef's kiss. Very satisfying. Now I'm gonna have to ream them out a little bit though, because the sleeves are so tight in there that you wouldn't be able to rotate. So, in watching this series, you'll remember this entire process from the rear swing arm. Just a smidgen of reaming with the drill bit, and that is just a very satisfying fit. Very snug. This is a great representation of how wear resistant Delrin is. Drill bit, right? It's not by any means tight in there, but it's also not loose, right? All of that time in there, and it barely makes any difference. Most of the weight is unsprung weight. Like, honestly, I think that this section weighs about as much as one of the tires right now. I mean, yeah, pretty close. Finally, time to build the front swing arm. I have very seriously contemplated all of the options here, and I've thought heavily about putting the swing arm on the opposite side in the front for weight balance, and I've decided to not do that because this was my original vision for the way this thing looks, which is 2 single-sided swing arms on this side, just a whole bunch of beautiful tube work, and then from the other side, all you see is the wheels. You don't see any of the swing arms attaching them, so it just looks like a motorcycle with wheels kind of like floating in front and behind it. And since this build is all about looking cool, I'm not really that worried about it being a little off balance, because I think that at low speeds that could be kind of annoying. But I think that once you get moving, you probably wouldn't even notice. You just have the handlebars turned a little bit to compensate, or like lean a little bit. And I will do my best to offset that weight by putting like all the shocks on this side. And because I have these bungs already on these that I just had left over from the Bronco project, they fit inside of 1.25" pipe, and 1.25" fits inside of 1.5". So for the first little section here, maybe like 2 feet, I'm gonna do double tube, which will make it also exceptionally strong. I'm gonna see how it does bending.
Is it welded? It's not moving at all.
No, it's not welded.
Nice.
I just don't think it really has any, I mean, it does have a little bit of force on it, but it shouldn't really be like pushing or pulling force. It's inside the other tube. It should help it greatly with deformation, I would think. Oh yeah, very minimal deformation. Well, I mean, it's also a 6-inch radius die.
Like you're just freestyling it.
I am, but that's, yeah, I knew it was going to be different. Also, I remember most of the things that I did with this and or could measure them, but most importantly, it's not going to be the same on the other one. Weld fixture Willie. Jeez. He's my portable tube holder.
People have paid good money for this kind of stuff.
Yes, sir.
We pay you pretty good money for this kind of stuff, Will.
You know for a fact.
Yeah, I would know for a fact.
It's really starting to look like the Batman bike now.
Oh yeah. What's that thing called? The tumbler or something? It's connected. Not solidly, but it's connected. Yeah. It looks extra weird when you're sitting on it.
Yeah.
Seeing that tire just turning like a car tire on a bike.
So far away from where you're sitting.
Yep. And the really weird part is you won't be able to see any of the parts. Like, there's no mechanical connection between the two. It's
Yeah.
gonna be a hydraulic connection, so you won't see anything moving. You'll just do this, and it'll turn. Up with a design for this that I like, that worked. It involved 3 versions. Designing the front half is much more difficult than the rear. I mean, partly because it has to have all this space for the tire to turn, but also it's just easier to design something to look good when it's by itself. And then you can design everything else around it. But when you're designing this to look good with the whole rest of the bike, there's a lot more to consider.
So the idea was for the bottom one to stick out just as far as the top?
Yeah, and I knew this bend wasn't going to turn out exactly the same because this bend is made out of 2 pieces, so I was able to like twist it in a way that isn't physically possible to bend it. But somehow it ended up like way longer this way. I had to cut and sleeve this one here because otherwise it was perfect, but it ended up just 1.5 inches too long in this section. And that's because I simply didn't account for how much distance this bend would take up. We have a tire that's loosely attached to the bike, and it is capable of turning. I don't think you'll really need much. I mean, in a parking lot trying to turn around, you'd want all the steering you could get, but it's gonna suck no matter what for that. So as far as riding it, this is plenty of steering angle, so I call that a win. The time has finally come to say goodbye to the Ford Ranger. We sold it, and the shipping company is almost here to pick it up. Last drive in the Ranger. Bittersweet.
Time to say farewell. Your final voyage.
This is sad. It's our first like major project that we've sold. We sold the Odyssey, but it was basically just an engine swapped Odyssey. This is like, we did a lot of stuff to that thing, but it's gonna free up some room and some money to put into the next project. It's overall very exciting.
Well, hello. Well, hello.
Yeah, so,
hello.
Also, that lockout I made on the rear steer drives so much better with it locked.
It looked a lot smoother.
Yeah, it feels normal. It doesn't like shimmy around and get all weird. Like, I'm really glad that I had the time to do that before we sold it.
Oh, Frank windows? Premium.
There for now. Nice. It looks good right there. You know, the diff we can just put in the back seat. And then, cause like there's still usable parts in here and these are hard to come by, so we might as well,
Ethan's the king of jank operations. That should be your business title of the LLC.
Actually, yeah, that whole box will fit perfectly across the front bench.
Chief of Jank Operations.
CJO. I'm the CJO.
Official.
The Chief of Jank Operations. That's me.
You know, Hindsight. There's a saying about hindsight.
Most of our things don't have. Most of our stories of builds don't have an ending. This has got a nice, like, just
Yeah. So many.
a happy ending too. Hopefully for the guy who's buying it, anyway.
It's like the kid that you've like worked on so much is going to college, and
Oh,
you
yeah.
never see him again.
Worked on.
I mean, I think if your kid goes to college, you tend to see them again generally.
So you guys still have the Tesla?
Yeah, Edwin's been daily driving it for like 2 years now.
Really?
Yeah, his truck broke and he won't buy a new one. Enjoy Texas more than I do.
Have fun in Texas, Danger Ranger.
Oh, it looks really cool from this angle.
Oh yeah, that looks.
Wow, that looks cool. He's gonna get some looks on his way to Texas. Oh, that's so much sturdier, just that one piece. It was all wobbly before because it was only connected over there. Brace in here, and then I sat here and contemplated the meaning of life for many hours. No, I contemplated steering for many hours. You can see I've got little scribbles of Sharpie over here. Over there's actually a piece of tubing with math on it because I couldn't find anything else to write on. Now that I've thought about it a lot and had this idea for a while, I really want to find out if it's going to work. So I'm going to move forward with building the hydraulic one. And on this end, the 6-inch throw ram is totally fine. It fits kind of perfectly in the space that we have. My problem was finding a space for it on this end and not having it be an impalement risk for your legs. But then I realized, instead of having the steering arm act on this end, I realized I could have this end, the tie rod end of this, or the heim joint end, be fixed, and have the steering arm act on the body of the ram. So you can, kind of imagine it being just doing that kind of thing. Working on this brace right here, and I got it all perfect. I got the notch real nice, and then I tacked it on there and realized it was stupid. Because it went straight down into it. So I redid it, spent a bunch more time, and made it match this one more or less. So it kind of planes in like that and looks much more fluid, and also is much stronger because it reinforces the whole bend there. Now I'm gonna move up to the front here and make a piece that connects these two up here. Adds a lot of strength to the whole assembly. It ties these two together at the point where they're both double walled. And it also gives me something for this third member here to end at. So just like the rear one there, there'll be a third piece that sticks out farther than the rest. I'm out of painter's tape, which works a lot better, but cheap duct tape does the trick. And it's silver like the metal. Anyway, I'm just figuring out how I want these, braces trellis bits to be. I got this all pretty much welded last night. There's a few things I didn't get, but I had to take it all apart so that I could weld these seams before welding this one on, so that the ones behind there are welded. And I had to take it apart because I had to get the bushings out of there so I didn't just set them on fire. Looks like a murderous device, doesn't it?
That's kind of frightening.
These notches are always kind of a pain.
Got a couple turkeys out there. Too bad it's not Thanksgiving.
Oh. Well, Christmas isn't far away. Oh, they're little small ones. They're little youngins. Edwin thought they were a glitch in the Matrix the other day because he saw young turkeys and they were all wet. And he was like, they were skinny. I got home and I wasn't sure if it was real. I was like, they were probably just juvenile turkeys that were wet. Edwin, your Wish.com turkeys are in the yard! Frederick has found the turkeys. He's waiting. He's watching.
Oh, he's going for him.
And Bjorn went chasing after him and then just like couldn't get the turkeys, so he went and bit his brother. What a jerk. Last night I got the last of the braces on here in the trellis thing and welded up a bunch of it, but we're almost out of argon, so I'm going to hold off on welding that, and I'm going to design the shock mount so that this thing can be on its own weight. So I'm designing brackets to go, they'll weld onto this tube here and onto parts of these tubes, two little plasma cut brackets that'll extend the shock mount up to like here-ish. Make good use of that scrap.
That's like just the right size.
Yeah, it was. Scrap bucket here is getting a little full. We only are going to get like 15 to 18 degrees of rotation here, or something like that. So this will have no chance of hitting that. $7 degrees, 20.6, 20.3. Sick. Now I'm going to make the mount here the same way that I did this one back here, which is to just take a piece of solid stock, drill a hole through it, thread it, and then drill a hole through the frame and weld it in right there. So it's only as strong as the bolt holding it in, but the other half of it is extremely strong. It's just the pain there. The cleanse is full of good things.
Honestly, that shock looks really awesome there.
I want to say something too, because most people, you wouldn't need to cut this off. You could have left that full length, but the fact that you went above and beyond to bevel it to the same radius as the bend, it's so overkill. But
That's what I do, especially on this bike.
yeah, like it's, you know what I mean. It could have been left full
Yep.
length and it's welded in there,
Could have been.
and most people would have.
Yep.
But you spent the extra 10 minutes to
Make it
make it pretty.
perfect. Oh, the moment of truth. It's time to see what happens when we put this thing on its own weight. Oh, look at that.
That is awesome.
Oh, apparently that front shock is a lot softer than I had imagined. Oh! Wow. Both of the suspensions are actually quite soft. That is a nice ride right there. Oh.
This is sick.
Oh.
Oh yeah.
Everybody's always talking about how hard it's going to be to lean. Like, honestly, not that bad. Like, look how far I can lean that up. Oh,
Oh, this
man,
is
this is exciting.
this is so sick, dude.
Yes. Honest, look. It also, I mean, it's got one thing propped under the edge of the tire lug there, but it holds itself up too. Wow, I didn't expect these to be this cushy. Like, they're actually a little too soft, really. Maybe not, I don't know. A little more preload, I think those will be perfect. All I need is a low rider. Oh, it's a chopper now. Also, I mean, like, in terms of like turning around in a parking lot or something, like pushing this thing backward, it's not that bad. Take it for a sit.
Oh, wow, that does feel really good.
Isn't that surprisingly cushy?
Yeah, and you're right. Like,
It's
it isn't as bad as I thought. Like,
yeah, like the leaning, like it's not like it's easy, but like
that's freaking cool.
that is.
The first test drive on this is going to be a really momentous.
It's gonna be very interesting.
I'm really, really excited for that.
And a couple minutes later, we have our shocks swapped. Let's see how it do. Oh, that feels like a big difference, I think. Yeah, I mean, it's still a little on the squishy side. You know, add some preload. Well, the front suspension and swing arm was a huge success. So next up, steering.